live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the program today, I welcome back to the show legendary drummer of the Yardbirds, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and author. We welcome back Jim McCarty. Jim, Brian C., honored to have you.
Thank you, Brian. Very nice to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Jim, you were on a couple of years ago, and I didn't get a chance to speak to you about the Yardbirds induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1992. So I figure I'd begin there. The band was inducted by U2's The Edge. How exciting and thrilled were you that moment in time?
Well, it was a fantastic moment, actually, and we were inducted at the same time as Johnny Cash, and we used to play Johnny Cash songs in our school group, so it was quite something. Johnny Cash and Jimi Hendrix and Booker T and the MGs, you know, they're rather heavyweights. So we were very, very happy, and it was a great evening, and you know, being able to meet a lot of people that were there, like Carlos Santana and B.B. King and Little Richard, and lots of people were there, you know, who we admired over time, and it was a great night. Lovely to be honored in that way.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the band was inducted by The Edge, and I don't know if you recall what The Edge mentioned in that speech. He went on to say that the Yardbirds invented what we know today as the rock band.
Well, that was very nice of him. It was really something coming from someone from U2, you know. And a lot of people do say some very nice things about us these days. So it's nice to be, you know, it's nice to be in the Yardbirds.
I mean, there's no question about it. For me personally, Jim, one cannot deny what The Edge said, because the Yardbirds, for that short period in rock history, 1963 to 68, it transformed and reformed rhythm and blues, similar to what Bo Diddley did. I believe, you know, Bo Diddley reinvented R&B to rock and roll.
Yes.
For me, you invented, you know, the band transformed R&B to what we know as rock music. How similar do you think that comparison makes?
Well, yeah, that's a good comparison. We always loved Bo Diddley, and we played a couple of his songs, particularly "I'm a Man," which was great. And of course, "I'm a Man" is a good example, because we did our version of "I'm a Man," which is quite different from his. But we wanted just to change the blues slightly and make it a bit more exciting and dynamic. And you know, Jeff Beck was involved, of course, and he was giving a lot of different sounds into the equation, all the feedback and the wah wah and the fuzz pedal and all that. I mean, he loved all those lovely sounds, which made it very different. It gave the band a very original sound. So credit to him.
Yeah, and you know, the band, the Yardbirds, also really invented the psychedelic and early hard rock sounds that we listen today, and you know, that really moved forward into the late 70s. And you mentioned the three, you know, the guitarists. I mean, we can't speak to you without mentioning the three top guitarists. One of the three top of all time: Clapton, Beck, and Page. And now, what was your relationship to each one? You had a close relationship to Clapton?
Yes. It was sort of, it came and went. It was like one of those relationships that you're quite close, and then all of a sudden you're not anymore. You know what I mean? Because Eric moves on very fast in his life, and he changes everything, changes his friends and his clothes and all those sort of things. So he's quite difficult to keep up with. But we were close at one time, and we used to have a laugh, and we had some good fun together.
Now, is it true that when Clapton left, Jimmy Page was recommended to play with the Yardbirds, but Page declined and recommended Beck? Is that the way the story went?
Yes, that's exactly right. Jimmy was playing on all the records that were being recorded in London. A lot of sessions he was doing, and he was so busy he didn't want to join a band. So he recommended Jeff as his understudy, and of course they were old friends from years ago, and we didn't know what to expect because we didn't really know Jeff so well. But when Jeff started playing, that was it. You're in. That's fantastic guitar.
Yeah, from what reading on your career, Jim, I've read that you really liked Beck's guitar play. I believe you mentioned one that it was very exciting to watch. You really liked Beck's style out of the three, correct?
Well, I did. He wasn't always the most easy to work with because he was very particular, particularly about his sound. And if he didn't get the right sound on stage, he'd get very upset. And sometimes he'd kick the guitar off. He'd kick the guitar amp off the stage. So he was very. He never quite knew what was going to happen with him. But when he did play well, he played some wonderful stuff and. Right off the top of his head, actually. I mean, I don't know where it came from, but amazing imagination.
So if you had to pick one out of the three to record with between Clapton, Page, Beck, who would that be?
Well, I'd say Jeff, because you never knew what you were getting. A song like Over, Under, Sideways, Down was basically just a boogie. We started with a boogie. It was sort of loosely based around Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock, and we said, we need a bit of an intro here, Jeff. We need a riff to start it off. So, see what you can do. So he plays this wild riff coming from wherever. I mean, it was incredible. We thought, what on earth is he playing? How does this fit the boogie? But after a while, we just thought, oh, that's brilliant. It's just really, really good.
It's amazing. Now, so when, for that short period, 63 to 68, when the band went apart, what exactly did you do at that time in your life?
When we split up, Keith Ralph and I, the singer, we were very close, and we were writing songs, and we carried on doing some stuff for EMI, and then finally, after a year or two, we formed Renaissance. A classical, more of a classical prog band with the mainly round the keyboard sound, and that's what we did for a while after that, and then we went on to other things later.
And you mentioned Keith Relf, who died tragically, being electrocuted. When you got that call that Keith passed away, how did you feel? What was your reaction to that?
Oh, God, well, complete shock. I mean, he was only 33. I'd seen him the night before, and he'd seemed fine, but he seemed a bit low. He was a bit depressed because he was living on his own with his two sons. He was split up from his wife, and he seemed a bit down. But I didn't think he was going to, die. That was a big shock. And I actually heard it from my mother, who worked on the switchboard of the local police station, and she told me because she'd heard it through the police force.
I mean, it's so tragic. Just to remind our audience that who's listening, he was electrocuted by. But what exactly happened with Keith Relf? How did he die?
Well, as far as I know, he plugged his guitar into a synthesizer, like an old Moog synthesizer, and
right.
he he plugged it into the wall, but he hadn't put a proper plug on. He just put the wires in the wall, and he put matchsticks in instead of putting a proper plug onto the lead. And apparently he got a belt, from the guitar, and that was it, and that killed him.
I mean, that's so tragic. That's really a tragic time in rock history. I mean, it's amazing. We're talking with the legendary drummer of the Yardbirds, Jim McCarty. Jim, a couple of things. I know a few years ago, 2018, you released a record, a single called Charmed, and I want to play a little promo clip, and maybe we can discuss how that song originated. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's hear Jim McCarty's Charmed.
Town. It's such a shock when you settle down. The man on the street says it's 10 below. You better get going, cause it's gonna be snow. I gotta move on, I just can't wait. The clock on the shelf says I'm gonna be late. Wherever I wander, wherever I stray, there's always someone to show me the way. I'm charmed, charmed every day. Charmed, charmed in every way. I'm charmed, charmed. Someone there looking after me. Switch on the set, look at the news. One more country is getting confused. I'm so safe, I'm in my bubble. Away from the danger, away from the trouble. Look at the blind, I'm trying to see. Think to myself, well, it could be me. If there's a strike, if there's delay, seems like there's always another way. I'm charmed.
And you just heard on KMET radio from 2017-2018, I believe, Jim McCarty's song Charmed. I listened to the song completely, Jim. Great work, great melody, great sound quality, beautiful lyrics, as only you can do. How did that song originate?
Well, I was doing an album, a solo album in Toronto, and that was one of the main songs from it. It got produced by Terry Brown, who produced a lot of the Rush albums. Terry's an English producer who's a very good friend of mine, and he's a great producer. He managed to get a pretty good mix on that one, as you heard. And I did a whole album. It was called Walking in the Wildland, the album. And I did it with a bass player called George Kohler and a pianist called Tom Reynolds. And we did most of the tracks in Toronto and with Terry. And we're very pleased with the whole album. And Charm came out very well.
And also on trumpet, I believe, was Tom Stoner, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think so. I can't remember. He was a Canadian guy. It wasn't Tom Stoner. It was a Canadian guy, whose name I don't remember. But he was a classic trumpeter. He was quite old. He was in his late 70s, and he was a real he's a real character and a real legend, really, in Canada. But I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. It's written on the album.
Okay, because I know you've done work with Tom Stoner, also Rich Teagarden on bass, who's a fantastic bass player.
Oh yeah, Rich Teagarden. Yeah, he's a great guy. But he plays lots of instruments. He plays keyboard and guitar, and he's a great guy, Rich. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to touch base with you on your autobiography. I know you've written a book. original book was called Nobody Told Me, and you have a memoir following that book. Talk a little bit about your book and your follow-up memoir.
Okay, well, the book came about probably about the same time as that Charm track. I was working on that at the same time. It came about through an idea from someone that contacted me on Facebook and said, "Oh, do you want to write a book? We could do it." And we started working together, but it was obviously not, he wasn't such a great writer, and it wasn't really very interesting to read. So somebody recommended Dave Thompson to me, who's a very good rock writer, and he's done a lot. He's done about 150 rock books, and so I got in touch with him, and we basically rewrote the book, and it's called Nobody Told Me, and it's done well. We took it on the road, and got very good reviews, and but we've sold quite a few of that, and Dave was great to work with. Then the other book came up more recently because I lost my wife last year to cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate. And I really decided, we were very close, me and my wife, and I decided to look into what had happened to her. So I did a lot of research into things like near-death experiences and mediums and lots of paranormal things. And finally, I studied a course with a medium called Suzanne Giesman, who's in America, who used to be an officer in the U.S. Navy. And she lost her stepdaughter in Iraq, who was hit by lightning, and decided to become a medium. And she was doing courses. So I did one of the courses while I was in the lockdown, and afterwards I managed to contact my wife through what she'd told me, how I was taught. So I was quite pleased, and I got a lot of evidence. She always stressed, you needed a lot of physical evidence with these things, and, things like asking my wife to tell me something about somebody I don't know, or tell me about something that was going to happen or something I was going to see. And all these things happened, and I thought, well, this is so interesting. I want to write a book about all this stuff, and also go back to my interest in the paranormal when I was in the band, and some of the songs we'd written around that sort of thing, and even back when I was a kid. So it's not really rock and roll, but there's a lot about the band and a lot about Keith Ralph, what we used to be interested in at the time on the road and all that stuff. And Dave Thompson is involved again, and I didn't think he'd be that interested, being a real rock writer, but he loved all that stuff. So we did it, and it's out there.
So again, it's called She Walks in Beauty, and this memoir really tells Jim McCarty's life journey inside and outside of music. Now, the book tells on your travels to China, India, and the Himalayas, right, Jim?
Yes, that's right. Yes, yes, we did follow a Buddhist Lama at one time, and we went on lots of pilgrimages to sacred sites in India and Nepal, China, and we saw some wonderful places, and we really, expanded our consciousness, expanded our minds, traveling around to these wonderful places, and it was a real eye-opener compared to living in Europe. The life there is so wonderful on one level and very difficult on others, very poor, but it was a wonderful experience, and I talk about all that in the book too.
Yeah, I mean, something like that can really change your perspective on life, Jim. I know China and India is big on Buddhism. Is that something that you've gotten involved with at all, Buddhism?
Yeah, we sort of followed a Buddhist Lama, so I learned some of the Buddhist practices and some of the chants and some of the way they think, and it's a very simple sort of thing. I wouldn't call it a religion, but it's very nice and it's very loving, and it sort of it's all part of my spirituality in a way. It all adds up, It's all I'm pulling things out of different categories, and it's all part of my spirituality.
Very interesting. So for everyone listening, where can they purchase the book?
Well, you can get it on Amazon. It's actually published by somebody called Lulu.com. You can go there and get it, or I think you can get it from Barnes and Noble too. So yeah, you can get it quite easily.
And I have a few minutes left. So what's been going on in your life? You have tours planned in 2022?
Yes, we were coming over in October as the Yardbirds because I'm still playing with the band. I mean, it's a different lineup now. In fact, they're all American guys, but they're great. They're great musicians, and we have a lot of fun together. And we got cancelled, and then the gigs got put back till April next year. And the first gig we're going to do is the Flower Power Cruise, which is the end of March, which goes out of Miami and into the Caribbean. And we're playing with people like Jefferson Starship and the Zombies and bands like that, in the same sort of era. So that's always a good fun to do.
Now, have you played on the cruise before?
Yes, we've done it twice before, and it's always been great, and they seem to like us a lot. And it's not like we're on a long time. It's only a few days, but it's great. It's very nice, and the audience is great, and they all dress up, and we have a lot of laughs.
Yeah, and also the fans listening can check out your website, jamesmccarty.com, for more information on the tour and your current projects, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the best way.
All right. So any final words?
No, I mean, I did that song "Charmed." It was quite interesting because I thought, well, I'm very lucky, and I am charmed in a way. And it was a bit of a blow to lose my wife, but everything's helped me along, and I've had a lot of friends and a lot of help from everywhere, and so I still feel like I'm charmed.
Oh, you definitely are, and again, my condolences. And
Thank you,
you're the longest living member that's still with the Yardbirds, which is amazing.
Yes, I know. It's the repertoire really that does well. I mean, that sounds so great, and people love to hear it. The For Your Love, or The Shapes of Things, Heart Full of Soul, all those songs. They still sound fresh, and people love them.
Yeah, I mean, you're the only band member to be a member of every lineup of the band since the band was founded in 1963. I mean, that's an incredible lifespan.
I know, amazing, isn't it? Well, I'll have to keep taking the pills, Brian.
And just to remind everyone, the songs, I mean, you mentioned For Your Love, Heart Full of Soul, Shapes of Things, I'm a Man, Over, Under, Sideways, Down, and Train Kept a Rollin', amongst many others. I mean, this is a legendary band for that short period. I mean, in 63, Jim, just reading rock music, rock history, in 63, 64, the Yardbirds were actually bigger than the Beatles.
That's what they say.
Yeah, man, it wasn't until the Beatles came to America where they blew up. But 63, 64, you guys were it. That's it. I mean, you guys were the best.
Well, there we are. I'll take that, Brian.
Yeah, and I got to reiterate again what you two said. I mean, you invented what we know today as the rock band, so it's really an honor to have you.
Well, thank you very much. And that's very nice for him to say that. Very nice.
Amazing. So, we'll keep in touch, and I'll be sure to purchase your memoir. And, I wish you a happy, healthy holiday season.
Yeah, same to you, Brian. Have a very nice time.
Take care, Jim.
Okay, and you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That was
Bye.
the legendary Yardbird drummer, Jim McCarty. Check out the website, jamesmccarty.com, for more information. Until next week, happy collecting to all.